Yeah, you are in Australia, right?
Yeah, Western Australia. So it's 3 a.m. over here.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, Martin, welcome to Nightbreed, man. Thanks for coming on. How's it going?
Thank you. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Hmm. Will be good.
Awesome. Good, man. So Centinex have a new release out in April, but if it's all right with you, I wouldn't mind jumping through your history for a little bit first, if that's cool, before we talk
Yeah.
about the new. Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome. So back in 1990, how did the original members of Centinex first meet?
Uh, yeah, when we started the band, we were just basically five or four guys, four friends, all living in a small city, and we all loved death metal, especially the old Swedish bands which were coming up around that time. And I was the only one who had played in a band before, but it was like a small punk band, so we didn't really have any experience or anything. But we just wanted to form a band, so we really started from scratch. Yeah, we were four guys in the beginning, but then the thing was that we got the rehearsal place from the city or from the community, and they had this rule that you have to be five persons in the band or in the group to have this. Yeah, because there was like financial support from them and stuff. So they had this demand that you have to be five persons in the group or in the band. And we didn't find any second guitarist. We only had one guitarist, so we came up with this brilliant idea to have two vocalists instead. We were also a bit like inspired by bands like Extreme Noise Terror and all these more hardcore kind of bands. And Extreme Noise Terror, for example, they used two vocalists. So then we added one other vocalist to the band. So then we were the five guys with two vocalists. So that's how we started.
Yeah, cool. So you're saying, like early on, you're sort of playing punk and hardcore, that sort of thing. What made you make the switch to death metal?
I mean, basically, I mean, we started because we couldn't handle our instruments, so we couldn't play, or we didn't know how to write songs or anything. So we started really from scratch. So the first tracks we made, they were quite punkish or like more into grindcore, in the grindcore direction. But we basically, I mean, we loved death metal and we wanted to play death metal, but we didn't know really how to do it. But then when months passed by, and then we like changed the style a little bit and became like more death metal. But in the beginning, it wasn't so much death metal. But when we then did the first real demo recording, like half a year after the band was formed, then it started to be more death metal. So we were like learning by doing, basically.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, cool. What was the metal scene like in Sweden around the early '90s? Like, were there many shows to go to and that kind of thing near where you lived?
Not where we lived. I mean, we lived in a small city, like a 2 hour drive from Stockholm, north of Stockholm. Uh, but in Stockholm and in a few other places, there is one city which is like a 45-minute drive from here, where they had quite a lot of shows, where also like bands from abroad. Where I mean, for example, when Sodom and Sepultura made their European tour in late '89, when Sepultura had released Beneath the Remains and Sodom had released Agent Orange, for example, they played there, and Morbid Angel did their first Swedish show there at the festival in that city in the summer of 1990. But basically, most of the shows were happening in Stockholm. So we went quite often to Stockholm, but it was these like big bands, or the upcoming bands then, like Entombed and Dismember and Grave, Unleashed. These bands were playing. But in general, back in those days, I mean, the scene was like really growing strong in Sweden with all the Swedish bands coming from here and being recognized, and there were quite a lot of people at the shows, and everyone was like really into it. And at the same time, there were a lot of bands also starting. I mean, because in the early '90s, the death metal was really like a boom in Sweden, so it almost became trendy. But yeah, a lot of those classic bands started around that period. But it was a good period, and everyone was like really supportive, and the death metal movement was big, but it wasn't like mainstream in any way. Even if bands like Entombed had a quite big success in Sweden, it was still like an underground movement. But it was like, yeah, it was good times.
Yeah, awesome. What do you remember about the early Centinex shows from back then?
We didn't really do so many shows during the first years. I mean, yeah, we did the first real demo in the summer '91, and then we got the record deal with the Swedish label and released our first album in '92. Recorded it in summer '92, released it in October or something. Um but around that period, we did just a couple of local shows, and then we played like one show in Gothenburg, if I remember right. But we didn't like. There were, as I said, there were some shows, but mostly those shows were like, yeah, it was like these more well-known bands who played at those shows. So, and it was also you have to keep in mind that back in around that time you didn't have any internet or anything, so everything when you if you wanted to contact someone regarding, I mean, you didn't get the information regarding shows. Yeah, you got some information that there's a show coming up with some bands, but you didn't know how to contact promoters and organizers, and you didn't even know who is like putting together those shows. So everything was a bit more complicated back then and slower, but at the same time, people were also like dedicated in a different way than what they are today. So, but yeah, but not we didn't do that many shows, but we did a couple of local ones, and even if it was like small shows, they were still like I don't know 100 people or something. I mean, back then people still went to shows. Today, if you do a show, like you're happy if there are like 40 people, 50 people. So
Yeah. So yeah, that first album, Subconscious Lobotomy in '92.
Yeah.
That original album cover is pretty iconic. I think that great image. How did
Yeah,
that come together?
Yeah, everyone knows. There aren't many people who have heard the album, but they have seen it or they know it based on the cover art. The thing with the cover artwork was that it was a tattoo artist actually who made it, and it was arranged by our label. And yeah, back then you didn't know anything about these things. So when the label said that, yeah, we have this great artist who is going to do the artwork, and it will cost like a lot of money, and it will be awesome. So of course you trusted them and thought, yeah, this will be great. And also, as I said, no internet, no nothing. So the only thing we saw some raw sketch, like a basic drawing of the cover when he started to do it. I think it was sent to us by, in a letter or something. But I mean, we just thought, yeah, this will be great. And then, so the first time we saw the actual cover was when we got the free CD copies from our label. We got the box of 100 CD, and I still remember this. We ran to the local post office and to pick up the package, and then we were like, kids on a Christmas Eve, and we were just tearing up the cardboard box, and then we found the CDs in there, and it took like a few seconds. What the hell is this? So yeah, I mean, but again, we were totally unexperienced, and we didn't know how to handle these things, and we trusted the record label and everything. So, but yes, that album cover, it has like really, as I said, many people know the album because of the album cover. So maybe it's a good in some way, at least.
Yeah, for sure. So throughout the 90s, Centinex keep releasing successful albums, and in 98, Reborn Free Flames is released through Repulse Records. What do you remember about that record?
Yeah, we recorded in Sunlight Studios in Stockholm. Yeah, I mean, in general, the whole death metal movement in Sweden and I think more or less worldwide was quite dead during the mid. I mean, there was this boom in the early 90s, but then like around 93, 94, everything started to die out, especially like this more brutal kind of Swedish death metal. There were these like more melodic bands coming up, and then there was this whole black metal movement, especially coming from Norway and everything. So we had some tough years there with we released a couple of albums on other labels and everything, but then we got in touch with Repulse, and they were interested to sign us, and then yeah, and we recorded the Reborn album, and in a way it was a little bit of like a new beginning, because Repulse did a good job for us, and even if death metal was far away from being any like, yeah, it was an really underground movement in the in the late 90s, so they did a good job for us, and especially in Europe, but in other countries as well. So it again, like, yeah, the band grew a little bit in popularity and everything. So yeah, so those then we did, yeah, we recorded like the Bloodhunt mini CD after that, also Repulse, and then we did the Hell Brigade album after that, also Repulse. So that the late 90s period was pretty good for the band.
Yeah, cool. We jump forward a little. 2005, World Declension is released through Candlelight Records, and your sound continues to evolve and change. What do you remember about that sort of time?
Well, yeah, many things happened in the band during those last years there, around 2004, yeah, 2003 up to 2006, basically. Yeah, we were on Candlelight, released those a couple of albums, and but we had some lineup changes, and yeah, things were a bit turmoil in the band also, like musically. I mean, in the past, on the first Centinex albums, I had written all the music, and I was like in charge of the music and the direction of the band. But then during those later years, we got then we had added a second guitarist to the band and everything. So we had two very talented technical guitarists who were almost like competing in playing fast guitar licks and stuff. So the music turned out, I mean, yeah, it started to become something I didn't really enjoy anymore, and there were a lot of things in the band going on around that time. And also we did the Word Declension album in 2005, and still we thought it was like a good album. It turned out good, and we were satisfied with it. Like we felt that we didn't really get any proper support from the label. So all these things, put together made me take the decision to stop the band then in 2006. So I just felt that, as I said, many reasons behind it, and I just felt that enough is enough. Because, then we had already struggled for like 15, 16 years, and mostly like uphill struggle. So I felt that it's not worth it anymore.
Mm. Yeah, that must have been a strange time, when finishing that,
Yeah, because I mean, still the band had been, as I said, we had already been doing the band for 15 years, so it had been a big part of my life, and being involved in the band like on a everyday basis. So of course, but it still felt, because as you maybe don't know, when we decided to put Centinex to rest, I had already the plan for my new band, for the Monocle. and this was a plan I had like already for several months before I took the final decision. So the same day I decided or officially announced that there is no more Centinex, then I announced the Monocle. And also because some of the members that joined the Monocle, they were ex Centinex members. So many people thought that the Monocle is just like the same band but with a different name. But for me, there was a huge difference because in the Monocle, that was the reason why I wanted to start the Monocle also, because I wanted to go back to the roots, how I felt when Centinex started, both like musically and spiritually and everything. Like have that good feeling which I didn't have in Centinex anymore during the last years. So it was like really a fresh start for me and everything. So
Yeah. So with the monocle, I mean, like it's similar to Centinex, but I think it's definitely unique. Like it's a different sound. How is your approach different? Do you think?
well, yeah, because the monocle for me has always been like more about death metal, like
Mm.
very Swedish. We have that was the original basic idea with the band to yeah, to play more like Swedish death metal, this more Swedish death metal style, and try to find back to the feeling with the band how it was in the early 90s, both like musically but also in other ways. So then, of course, today the Monica sounds a bit different than it sounded back in 2006 and 2007. But still, if you listen to all the Demonical albums and recordings in a row, you can still hear that there's some kind of red line through it, and of course the music changes a little bit, but you can still hear it's the same band, but with Centinex maybe the differences between the first album and the Word Declension album were like quite big. So, but yeah, in many ways. Well, it's hard to explain, but I mean, the thing with starting the Monica was like really a good decision for me and a relief in many ways.
No, cool. So you've been involved in death metal for 3 decades now. How do you think it's changed over the years?
Well, yeah, it has changed, but a lot of the changes is in the scene or within death metal or whatever is because of the overall changes in society, and especially this whole thing with internet and all this communication and then during the later years also. I mean, everything when it comes to how you record albums today and how everyone. I mean, you are basically back in the early 90s when if you wanted to some kind of proper recording, you had to go to the studio with the producer or engineer and record an album, rehearse it together as a band, like 2 or 3 times a week. You went to the rehearsal room, you rehearsed, you went to the studio, you were there for a week, you did it. You couldn't do any like editing or anything, so it was more basic back then. But nowadays with all the technical stuff and everything, I mean, you can record an album at home and you can be in different parts of the world recording an album, and it's easier to record an album. It's easier to start some kind of record label. It's cheaper to print CDs. You have all the Spotify's and everything. So yeah, and death metal has become more widespread and more like, in a way, more mainstream. I mean, back in the early 90s, death metal was still, and heavy metal in general was like, it was almost devil's music. It was like dangerous. But nowadays, I mean, death metal is not so dangerous anymore. So there are a lot of things that have changed, and both for the good and for the bad. Of course, it's like sometimes I'm like longing for the old days and how everything was like felt better back then and everything. But on the other hand, everything is much easier today. And also, I mean, my personal life has of course changed. I mean, when you were like 18, 90 years old, 19 years old, and you went to school and you only lived for playing death metal. And yeah, you went to school, you didn't have any worries, you went to the rehearsal room, you just drank beer during the weekends and played death metal. Life, life was very simple back then. Nowadays, I mean, you are grown up and you have a responsibility and you have to go to work and you have to pay your bills. And, yeah, so thing. Yeah, we don't even have time to like rehearse, and I wouldn't even like to rehearse like 3 times every week as we
Mhm.
did back then. Yeah, so in so many ways, the scene and everything is totally different uh, today than it was back
Mm. Yeah, yeah. What sort of music are you listening to at the moment? Like, what kind of bands?
then. Well, to be honest, I don't listen so much to music anymore. Um, I'm even thinking about selling my whole record collection. I have like a quite big record, albums, both vinyls and CDs, and but I don't have any like record player or anything. So I have been thinking about selling it because I don't know. I don't when I listen to music, maybe it has something to do with the age or something. But if I listen to music, I wanna sit down and listen to it. I can't have like any music as background music. It's only disturbing. So when I listen to music, I mostly listen to the old albums like heavy metal or hard rock albums from the late 80s. Those albums which I started to when I started to listen to harder music like in the mid 80s, all this like Kiss and Wasp and Twisted Sister and Accept and Scorpions and all these bands. So I enjoy going back to those albums and listen to those again. But it's not so often I listen to music. But I mean, I have no clue about all these new death metal bands and albums which are coming out. And of course, I hear some tracks once in a while, but honestly, I can't say that I'm like really any expert on these new bands and new releases. So I don't know. I mean, but I still enjoy playing death metal, and I always enjoyed it. And I think that sometimes I have thought about like starting some project band or something, like doing some kind of different direction of metal, like more heavy metal or something. But I haven't really had time for it, and still, I mean, I enjoy playing death metal, but I don't maybe enjoy to listening to it so much anymore.
Yeah, sure. What about bands that you meet? You know, playing shows and that kind of thing. Over the years, have you ever sort of developed friend relationships with different bands that you played with and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, of course, when we are playing like festivals in Europe or something, you meet a lot of bands and band members, and also, yeah, we are in touch with some like through social media and everything, and so, but I wouldn't say that there is like any kind of like a deep friendship. But of course, when you meet at a festival or at a show, you say hi and you maybe drink a beer together and talk about the latest happenings. But yeah, I don't. I mean, it's also because like here, I'm still living like in a small city far away from Stockholm and maybe any other big city. So we are quite like isolated here. There's like no metal scene here around really. So but again, that has also to do with like the personal situation. I mean, most of the people playing. I mean, of course, there are like younger kids also playing death metal, but many of us are still like we are around the 40s, so we have families and kids and all these responsibilities. So you don't get to hang around the same way maybe you did as you did in the past.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure. So 2014 Centinex reforms. What prompted you to start Centinex again?
well, yeah, during those years between 2006 and 2014, there was still like because also like around that period, there was like this death metal movement rising a little bit again and becoming more popular, especially there around 2010 and 2011. So during all those years, there was still an interest in Centinex, and there were we made a couple of re-releases of old stuff, and I got some questions once in a while about reforming the band or doing some new recording or something. And so even if I was quite busy with the Monocle, and we released like 3 or 4 albums during that period, uh, Centinex was still in my mind like all the time. And as I said, I mean, I was working on some re-releases and stuff. So I was still like, the band was active in a way, even if we didn't have a lineup or we didn't rehearse or anything. But then there around 2013, I had made some tracks which I felt that didn't maybe really fit into the Monocle formula, and then I had also some spare time. So yeah, it was a quite fast decision that I just decided that I want to reform Centinex again and at least make one new album. So then I got a few friends together, and then we rehearsed and recorded and released the Redeeming Filth album in 2014. And then things have just been going on since then.
Yeah, it's cool. How did it feel going back in and writing and recording Centinex material after that break?
It felt really good because from the beginning, or from that period, I decided. I mean, the Monocle was, even if the Monocle is not like limited, or we don't have any like rules how the Monocle should sound or anything, but still it becomes quite natural that the Monocle is like old school Swedish death metal. So in a way, I was a bit limited in the Monocle, but I was limited like in a good way. But I still felt that with Centinex, I decided that Centinex would really be some kind of playground where we can do and release whatever we want. I mean, of course, it should be death metal or something, and that's the thing we want to do. But still, we didn't feel like any pressure that it should sound like we did in the early 90s or something. We just felt that let's do let's release an album, and then we take it from there and see where it goes. So it was like really, it was like really a relief to start Centinex again, because it was so relaxed and so laid back, and the members we had in Centinex then, it was like now they are former Monocle members, but 2 of the guys were in the Monocle with me at the same time. So it was like really just like a playground. And also, for example, with the Monocle during that period, we rehearsed like maybe once every 3rd month or something, because we were all living in different parts of Sweden. But with all the Centinex guys, we were living like really close to each other. So we got back to this feeling we went down to the rehearsal room on a Saturday to drink some beer and play death metal. So it was like really relaxed and like fun thing to do, basically. And that's something that I have tried to continue with Centinex ever since, that to keep it like really relaxed, and we do what we want to do. And of course, there might be some people having expectations on how we should be or how we should sound or whatever, but we don't give a damn about that. We just do what we want to do. So,
yeah, that's cool. How do you go balancing the 2 bands? So, because obviously you got Centinex and Monocle both still, active. How do you go about sort of deciding which one gets preference at certain times, that kind of thing?
Well, it's easier than what you might have thought that it is. It's I mean, because nowadays we don't rehearse so much with any of the bands, but I write music to both bands, but there's quite big difference in the music. So there's never any kind of conflict. If I write a riff or a track, it's easy for me to decide. It's not that I have like a problem deciding should this go to the Monica or should this go to Centinex. So, but also, I mean, with the Monica we have before this all pandemic and everything, of course. But with the Monica, we did quite a lot of like touring and of course also festivals and one-off shows. But with Centinex, we have only done festival shows. So that, and also, yeah, so that has also been a different thing. I mean, even if with the Monica we haven't like felt that we have to or must do any special tours or something, there has still been this thing that we need to at least try to do one tour every year. But with Centinex, we have just, I mean, we have gotten quite a lot of like, especially offers from festivals. But we have felt really that we just accept those offers and those shows we really want to do. And if there's like a conflict, if you get an offer and one of the guys, he can't do it because it's his grandmother's birthday or whatever, we have said that okay, then we don't do the show. But with the Monica, there has been a little bit more pressure to do some specific shows. So also there are differences in how the bands are like acting and how we go further. But still, I enjoy very much doing both bands because they are still, for me, they are so different in many ways.
Yeah. So we jump forward again to June 2021, and you're recording a new EP, which you prefer to call an MLP.
The old school style.
Yeah. It's funny because when you Google MLP, you get My Little Pony comes up.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's mini LP, right? Like a short record.
Yeah, for me, I mean, as they were called in the 80s, I mean, if you had a recording with 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks or something, it was a mini LP or And nowadays everyone says it's just EP, but for me an EP is like a 7-inch with more than 2 tracks. So but it's an EP or mini LP, but we prefer to call it mini LP.
Yeah, cool. I read that you were aiming for a more old school feel on this recording. How'd you achieve that?
Well, we recorded it in a more like live environment. So we recorded. We went together. We were all together in the studio recording it. We recorded the drums, bass, and one of the guitars. Together like live, and then just added one more guitar and put on the vocals. So we tried to and didn't do any like editing or stuff. So we tried to like capture a bit of this more old school feeling. And musically, it's also maybe a bit different. It's more leaning towards the thrash metal kind of stuff, especially like one of the German thrash metal from the late 80s. But it's still death metal, but maybe a bit more thrash metal influences. But the recording was more. We tried to get a more old school vibe to it, and not make it so clinical and clean and over-produced. So and it's nowadays. I mean, most of the studios when they are quite professional with good equipment. So and most of the producers or engineers working in the studio, they are so, especially if they're a bit younger guys, they are so keen on, and for them it's so important that it's like super tight and super well produced and super clinical. So it's all, we didn't have any like trouble or problems this time, but it's an interesting, there were some interesting discussions when you try to tell the engineer that when the engineer says that, but can you redo that part? There's some small mistake, which basically no one, he heard it, but basically no one else. But we said that no, we want to leave it like that. So but now we are satisfied with it, and it turned out pretty much in the way we wanted.
Yeah, that's awesome. What made you decide to record 5 tracks over jumping into another album?
Well, well, I don't know really, because the thing was that I had written uh, like a full album. This is like a year ago, I think. I had like 9 tracks or 8, 9, 10 tracks, something.
Mm.
But for some reason, uh, we decided that we just want to do a mini LP. Um, then, but the thing was also that I mean, the problem now, or the thing which is a bit annoying is that we recorded this uh, in June last year, and it will be out in April. So it's like 8 months later, nine, yeah, something like that. 8 months later, and that wasn't the original idea. Our thought was to just like record a mini album and have it out a few months later, and then concentrate on a new full length. Just have the mini album like as a thing in between. Because also, I mean, we released the Death in Pieces album in 2020, and then it was with all this pandemic stuff and all the problems. We didn't do any shows or anything, so yeah, I had some time to concentrate on doing new music and just to to show that the band is active and everything. We just wanted to have some like fast small recording out, and this was also we recorded the mini album in a different studio which we haven't used before, so it was also a bit of a test of the studio. But then due to different reasons, everything, yeah, it will be out in April, and this has a lot to do with or the main reason is that the vinyl pressing plants nowadays, there aren't many vinyl pressing plants in Europe anymore, and there are a few, and the waiting times are like 8 months to have a vinyl out because it's super trendy to release vinyls, and also there's a shortage of raw material for the vinyls, and that's because of the COVID and several reasons. So if we would have knew when we recorded that it would take like 8 months to have it out, we would maybe have thought differently. So, but because the thing was that Agonia, the record label, they wanted to release like all the versions at the same time. Of course, the CD they could have pressed at the CD and had it out like 2 months later or something. But they wanted to have the vinyl and the CD version out at the same time. That's why it's coming in April. So, but yeah, we are working on new material already. So the next recording will be a full length then, but we don't know really when to record it, but most likely later. Yeah, this year.
Mm. Do you think the next recording will it be the sort of similar approach, the same studio and the live setup and that kind of thing?
Don't know about the studio, but the approach definitely yes, the same direction, and yeah, both musically and yeah, in every other way also. So yeah, as I said earlier, I mean, Centinex is a bit of a playground where we can do whatever we want. So and it was like really a good feeling with the whole recording when we were like together in the studio working on the recording together as a band playing all together. So it was like a good thing for the band, the chemistry, and for the overall feeling in the band to do it together like that instead of like everyone recording their parts maybe at different places at different times and everything. So it was more of this like band feeling as how it was like back in the good old days.
No, that's awesome. So yeah, the Pestilence is out April 1st this year. Are we going to be able to hear any tracks before the release? Like, are there plans for a video or anything like that?
Yeah, there is actually. I can reveal that there is a video, one thing like single track coming out. I don't know exactly. I think it will be now in February. I think actually I got the final version of the video. We recorded it here in Sweden a couple of months ago, and the guy who recorded it, I think he sent me the final version to check out. actually earlier today. So I haven't really seen it yet. I had to check it out. But I think the plan is, I don't remember what the label said, but I think the plan was to have it out like one, the video and like the single track in February, late February, I think.
Yeah, awesome. And you know, obviously there's COVID and everything. Are you guys able to play shows to support the release for this one?
Well, yeah, hopefully. I mean, the thing is, last summer I thought that when I somehow thought that this whole COVID thing should ease up around, yeah, early this year, and I thought that this coming summer would be almost back to normal. But now it seems that COVID, at least in Sweden, is on the rise again with new restrictions. They just had some new restrictions released 2 days ago. So we have actually a show booked in Stockholm in the end of February or mid-February, and now it's a big question mark if that will happen, because that would, our plan was to, I mean, the show before that we played like in March 2020. So we wanted to do. Then we have a couple of festivals in Europe booked for the summer. So we wanted to do, and we had a lot of plans for the spring also, for the coming spring. So we wanted to do some kind of like comeback show here in Sweden. So this show in Stockholm was booked a few months ago. Of course, back then everyone thought that by mid-February this year everything would be pretty much back to normal. But now with these new restrictions, which came 2 days ago, we don't know if this show will happen. And honestly, I don't even now. I'm becoming more and more skeptical regarding the spring and the summer as well. So, and it's a bit. I mean, when this whole COVID thing started, like 2 years ago, I thought first that this will be over in like 2 months or something. But then time went on, and we had quite a lot of shows, both with Centinex and the Monocle planned, and all those got cancelled and postponed, and we had a few tours. The Monocle had a couple of European tours that got postponed, and then they got cancelled, and then we just like decided that it's no use to plan anything until we know, because it's just time consuming, and you get pissed off and everything when you are looking forward to something and you're planning something and then it's not happening. So we just thought that it's better to wait until this is over. And somehow we thought that this whole situation in the world is, I mean, now it has been going on like this for 2 years. If someone would have said to us 2 years ago that this COVID will stay here for a couple of years, we wouldn't have believed it. We thought that it would be over in like half a year or 1 year maximum. So right now it's I don't know what to think really. And I mean, especially in Europe, everyone, I mean, for example, all summer festivals, they got like cancelled in 2020 and in 2021, but like last summer and last autumn, everyone was like really thinking that yes, with summer 2022 they will happen, because then things should be back on track and back to some kind of normality. But now again, we don't know. So it's. I mean, everything would of course be much easier if we would know that there would be a certain date that this COVID shit is over on the 5th of June. Then you can like plan your life based on that and what will happen after that. But as it's now, it's just moving on and month after month, and you don't know what's happening. So but the good thing is that you can concentrate on doing more music and recording more music, and try to use this time in a good creative way instead of just sitting and waiting for better times. So we will see what happens.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, look, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing the Pestilence. Martin, thanks heaps for your time, and congratulations, you're still playing awesome music after all these years, man. So it's nice work. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
We
cool.
are really looking forward to have it out.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Thanks a lot, man. Hey, have a good one.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, man. See ya.